we will go ahead and get started. Probably take maybe about 30 minutes, roughly, a little 35. I would ask for this one, if you have, pen and paper and you're taking notes, jot down some notes, some takeaways, things that you hear that you like, things that you've heard before, you were just reminded of that you feel are important, because after each video clip, we'll use the chat function, and I just real quick kind of give me your feedback, your thoughts that you're getting something out of this. And that will help. Or if you have questions, ask the question, that'll help us towards the end. We can get those answered for you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. Share screen. Here we go. All right. So the purpose of this one, this is showcase advice, right? But we wanted to put a different spin on it because you guys have heard a lot from me. And what I wanted to do this time was try to get some helpful information from other college coaches. It might be some of the same information that you've heard from me in the past, but I think it's important to hear, their perspective. Even if it's the same, it should just, maybe if you've heard it before and you're hearing it from other coaches, you've heard it 3-4 times now from different coaches at different levels. It's probably a very important fact that you need to hang on to, as you showcase through some of these. The other purpose I would say is to educate you so that get an inside look at what are college coaches looking for? They're going to be the ones to give you the advice in the 4th video of today's presentation. And I think the more educated you are, the more confident you're going to be, right? If you understand the process and you understand what coaches are looking for and how the process works, then, maybe you go into it with less nerves, more confidence, and that should give you a better performance. And that better performance, hopefully, allows you to maximize that opportunity, right? Because this upcoming year, there might be fewer events, right? So you got to make sure you get the most out of these events. And trust me, as college coaches, we're going to be at these events trying to do the same. We want to get the most out of them as well. So let's make the most out of the opportunity. And today, let's try to get you a little bit of information from coaches. What's important to us? What does the process look like? So the questions that we asked, we wrote down these 4 and said, well, let's see if we can get different coaches to answer these questions, right? How do we prepare for an event? That there's going to be bits of information within that answer that should help you as the player, make sure you're prepared too, right? What do they look for in players? Okay, so when we're sitting there on the sideline, what are they writing down? What are they looking for? What is important to them? And I think if you went into an event with some of that information, that might help you showcase a little bit better. What happens after the event, right? So you go home as a player and it's like, do we wait? Do we follow up? Let's hear some of their thoughts, okay? And the last one I did ask them, I said, hey, I'm going to show this to my club here. What advice would you give a player trying to have a really awesome showcase performance? And I think the coolest part is, I think I learned a lot listening to what those coaches were going to say, their little bits of advice. I hope you guys appreciate it as well. So make sure you're taking a couple of notes. And like I said, provide feedback in the comments, in the chat after each video. I'm going to sum up some of the bullet points of what the coaches said in a slide after the video. Okay. And then of course, if there's ever a question, just chime in and ask. So these are the questions we wanted to get answers to. Now I have my answers to them, but we wanted to hear perspectives from different coaches. So we asked, and here are their answers for you. Okay, so here are the coaches that we're able to get feedback from. Brian at Ohio State, Andy Jansen at South Dakota, Jim Stone Bemidji, Ben at Mankato. So Ben wrote out his answers in an email, and in the video, it's a picture of Ben. And I am the one speaking. I'm literally reading Ben's answers. So Ben does not sound exactly like me if you happen to see him. I'm reading his answers for him with his permission. And then myself, I put a couple of extra bits of information on the very last slide to give you, some of my perspective. But everybody has a different process. They're similar in some ways, and everyone's going to have different things that might be important to them. So here's a little bit of insight. Okay, so the first one, I said, how do you prepare when you attend a showcase, right? So here we go. If you cannot hear, you got to chime in and let me know.
Before events, we usually know what needs we need for recruiting. So we go through all the teams that are there and we try and figure out what games best will help us find those needs in our current recruiting class. A lot of times we want players that want to be here as well. So it's always good to write to us. I try and write down all those names on a list. I do my best to make it to every game, but it's not always possible because there's just so many games going on. But the players that write to us, I try and do my best to see them just because I feel like they have an interest. Now on the emails, you can tell which ones are generic and what ones aren't. So make sure you keep it very simple, but show them that you know that you're interested in something specific at the school, not something that you send to every single person.
So one of the ways we prepare for an event at Ohio State is really just dividing up which players we want to see, because we do know in advance what the schedule is going to look like. Usually about a couple weeks in advance. We really appreciate when we get emails from players that are interested in us, probably about a week before the event. That gives us time to put those players on our schedule, as well as enough time for any schedule changes that could happen at these events, so we can go ahead and make any changes to those in an email that we get. We'd like to see, very simple, player's name, their number, especially what color they might be wearing on the certain day that they're going to play, who they're playing against, and in details such as field locations and times. And that's really all we need to see.
So your part in this is to write coaches early and often. So beginning with that freshman year and into your sophomore year, and obviously really heavy into your junior year, you want to write coaches because every program is on a different timetable. There may be some programs that are on their 2021 class right now. There may be some programs that are working on 2023s. There may be even some programs that are identifying 2024s. So you want to write to them early so that you don't miss an opportunity. And then when you write to them, try not to be too generic or really vanilla. So for example, if someone writes to us from Ohio State, and we have multiple people write to us and our schedule's already pretty full, how do we make a decision about which one we may go watch? Well, we're going to look at the email and see if there's any sort of connection to Bemidji State. So maybe they say that they vacationed here before, or maybe they say they have a relative or relatives who live in Minnesota. In our mind, that's going to increase the likelihood that this person could be seriously looking at us as a possibility in the future. So we may end up on the sideline of that game.
We have a spreadsheet of each team playing in the specific event we are attending. From there, we have a players to watch column of players we have seen in the past and those that have attended our camps. We also add every player that has sent us a message prior to the showcase.
Awesome. So a couple of main takeaways, right? I think as a player, the biggest piece is college coaches, we're going to start with the schedule. Before we get to that event, there's a schedule. So if you're emailing a coach the day before, 2 days before, that schedule's pretty full at that point, so you might get looked at, but I think your best chance, write them a week out, write them 2 weeks out, write them early and then update them, and then send a foolproof email right before to remind them again, here's where we're going to play. Here's my jersey number. Here's this. That one email should have every bit of information that they need, and then they watch you play. How do we sort the list? Okay, you've heard me say it before, but I think some of the takeaways from these coaches and who wrote to us, is the interest genuine? Those players who write to coaches and whose interest is genuine, those usually you prioritize. You put them on your schedule, right? Because there's a good chance they want to play for you. So I need to go watch them play. I think Ben mentioned kind of who's on our radar. So right away they go to an existing list, a pool. If you're not in that pool already, maybe from a prior event, that you're going to want to be on that list. So let's say Mankato's list, mail them a few months early, do their questionnaire on their website. That way you're on the list. And then they plug it in and go, okay, what teams are there? These kids are on our list. Let's make sure we watch them play. Another thing that we do, I don't know if they mentioned it, but oftentimes we'll contact club coaches. And I know I've gotten that call as well. Hey, Jesse, you're in the event. I'm looking for this. You got any players I should take a look at? And we'll provide recommendations. I know that they do that to other coaches within the club. So it's fairly common. And I would, if you have schools you're interested in, let your club coaches know, because when we get those phone calls, we can actually help. We can say, look, you know what, this kid, she wants to, stay close to Minnesota, play Division II, and she's brought up your program before. So now maybe you weren't on their list, you just got on it, and now they're going to watch you play. So a couple of bits to prepare for an event. The biggest one, right coaches, invite them out and do it early. Now, I would say within a week out is good. Okay. So the next question we asked is, what do you look for? Right? They're going to sit there. They're going to watch what piques their interest. So here's a couple of thoughts from those coaches.
When I go to an event, I want to see a player who brings some energy onto the field. I want to see that they have a love for the game, a passion. There's nothing worse than running a training session and when you're looking at some of your players and they look like they're bored or they want to check the time. And so I want someone who loves the game, who is excited to train every day and even more excited to play. We want players who have a grind to them, have a little dog into them. They lose the ball and their first and immediate response is to win it back, instead of putting your head down. And I want to see them ready to move on to what's next. We want forwards who are versatile. They're not just a true number 9, but they're able to play out in the wing. They're able to press, to defend, kind of be the first defender. For us, we really want to be as close to positionless as possible. So if there's going to be an exchanging of positions throughout a match, then everybody needs to be good on the ball and everybody needs to have a good IQ. And
the qualities you look for in players it could be different from school to school. I think the first thing that we try and find is consistency. That is, from event to event, from game to game in an event, will a player show us similar qualities and similar characteristics from game to game? Because that's difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing to accomplish. Other things we look for that you might not think, we look for how you as a player, how do you deal with your teammates? How do you deal with your coaches? How do you deal with being up a goal, down a goal? How do you potentially deal with a referee who isn't that great? Those are some of the things that you might not think we look at, but culture is very important at every school. So we look at how you handle adversity and will that make you a culture fit within our program?
When you recruit, you always are looking for talent. There's no way around it. And the athletic ability, after that, there's big difference on what separates good from great. And I would say the competitive mindset and just kind of the grinders, the ones that want to win 50-50s, the one that you can tell try and win, the ones that are going to put effort in the last minute, even though they're down by 3 goals, those are huge things for me. And then the other one is just how you treat your teammates. So everyone talks about a culture and being a family, but there's right ways and wrong ways. And usually when the situation's tough and you're treating your teammates bad, it's not helping it. So always being positive, encouraging, and optimistic in those moments.
Okay, awesome. So couple takeaways. Couple takeaways that I got from that one. And you know what? I didn't have Ben's in there, but that's fine. I have his responses over here. So I'll tell you what he had said. What are they looking for in a player? Let's see. With only being able to possibly watch a game for a half or a showcase, we look for 3 things that catch our eye right away. 1, you got to be a hardworking player. 2, are you engaged in the game and they look like they want, they're there kind of owning the moment. 3, is they are competing every minute they are on the field. And then after these qualities, he says, then we'll go back and evaluate additional soccer specific abilities. So those are Ben at Mankato, his answers. Would have thrown him in the video, but probably not that version. So the bullet points, consistency was something that Brian brought up. Okay. I think both of them brought up the different ways they said it, but just, you got to be competitive. Like, you got to be out there competing for every little moment. Talent and athletic ability are obviously, they're clearly very important. But another thing that I heard that was brought up was just the culture piece. Are you a good teammate? Are you going to fit in with the team that they have, right? They're trying to bring in good players, but also good people that have very competitive mindsets, and that when the going gets tough, that they're good teammates, right? They give effort throughout the game and they're very positive and supportive. I'll be honest, kind of listening to other coaches' responses, it was nice to hear that, it's not all just soccer. I don't know. I wouldn't even say it was 50-50 listening to their answers versus soccer skill. And then that personality, kind of that inner motivation to compete, right? They're both very, very important. So I think the biggest takeaway, college coaches are definitely looking at more than just your skill and your ability on the ball. They're looking at, how do you compete? Is it consistent, right? So really, really good thing to think about before you take the field for a showcase event. Okay, so the third question I asked is, what does the process look like afterwards you get back to the office, right? So here's their answers.
After the event, I think a lot of coaches are similar. They're all going to do their homework. They're going to call people. And the biggest reason is people need to be okay with when they make an offer. So is it going to affect their culture or not? And if it is, they're very hesitant on bringing in those players and making them offers. And really what it's about is just being a good person, treating people the right way. Regardless of what's going on, you always got to treat people the right way. How you're treating your parents when you come on visits, and how are you interacting with people in general.
When events are over, we typically like to put all the players into a database that we have. And then we'll divide up responsibilities as far as who's going to contact their club coaches. There are times when we cannot contact the player individually. We have to contact their club coach in order to pass along our interest potentially, or to gain more information about the player. If it is a player that we can contact, we typically like to contact them within 1 or 2 days after.
Initial emails, texts, sometimes. Often we'll call club coaches to figure out some of the intangibles behind a player, especially players that we've watched for the first time, and talk to them, coaches, about character and who the person behind the player is. So we want to start discovering that and seeing if we want to move forward. So with the youngsters that, the NCAA doesn't allow us to begin recruiting yet, we'll put them into our database so that we can get them camp information over time. And that's really how we conclude an event.
Before an event, I think it's very important that each player double checks that they have turned in their correct email cell number. There's nothing worse than trying to contact a player and being unable to because of incorrect information. We try to contact the players from our list the week after we get back to let them know of our interest. If you don't hear from us, I would still recommend to reach out and see if we are able to see you play. If not, invite us to your next event. Don't give up.
Okay, awesome. Couple big takeaways, and again, things that even now, notes that I wrote here. They're paying attention. They're calling your club coaches to get an idea of, somebody made a comment, the character behind the talent, right? They want to get to know who you are outside of, like, off the field. How well do you train? What's your attitude like, work rate like? So sometimes that happens after an event before we reach out to the player. Let's get an idea. What does our club coach say about them? Contact. Some coaches are within 1 to 2 days. I think Ben said a week. I personally know some coaches, they want to wait a week, and then they don't want to be in that first wave of emails and text messages. They would like to be, let's give it a week, and then after you've gotten all those, then I'll chime in with my feedback that I saw you play. So everybody has a different way of doing it. My recommendation is, sure, give it a day, or I think you should say thank you for watching me play. You just email them back. Personally, when I get back to the office, if somebody does send an email, thanks for watching me play, this and that, looking forward to hearing your feedback. I actually put them towards the top of my list so that I can at least give them their reply quickly, right? They're being diligent. I should be respectful of that and try to be diligent myself. And it's just a nice courtesy. Let them know, thanks. I saw you out there. Thank you for coming out. So again, everyone will have a different timeline. It is okay to check in, right? If you haven't heard anything, you really like the school, just send them an email, let them know you're there. And I think Ben made a comment about, if you didn't get a reply, just keep trying, right? Maybe invite them to the next one, right? It's not always going to happen in that one event. Brian at Ohio earlier talked about consistency, right? So, okay, maybe after that one event, you didn't get that glowing review or contact yet. Maybe they're just waiting to watch you at the next one. Can you be consistent? I would say don't give up, keep contacting coaches. Okay. Last bits, a couple other ones. After the showcase event, they watch you play. Typically, yes, staff will collaborate. We try to talk about you, and is this a player we would like to learn more about? Usually what happens next is you try to set up a phone call so that you guys can at least talk over the phone, get to know you a little bit. And then after that, if that goes well, then it's usually a campus visit, whether it's usually an unofficial visit, come check it out for a few hours. And then the next step would be like an official visit, probably an overnight visit. But all of that will take months, right? So they might watch you play on a weekend. A week later, you get a phone call, 3-4 weeks later, 2 weeks that you're on a visit unofficially, and then maybe a few months out. Now you're coming during season, watch the team play, get to know the players. Okay, so there's a little bit of a timeline after an event. And then the last one, this is a little bit more fun. I asked them, what advice do you have for our players? And let's go ahead and hear their thoughts, and we'll chat about at the end.
The best advice I ever received as a coach was be yourself. And I think it's so true as a player. You have to be you. Know who your strengths are. If your strength is your great first touch and your ability to get the ball to your feet, don't go into a showcase thinking that you're going to try to impress coaches and take everyone 1v1 all over the field, because it's going to fail, because that's not who you are. So understand who you are, talk with your club coach about what they think your strengths are, jot them down, and then just bring those out in the showcase. Be who you are and be the best you that you can be. It's impossible to fake who you are, and if you try to be someone else, it just usually fails. And then, as you think about your best you, and some deficiencies come to mind. Maybe because it's so competitive, at times you struggle as a teammate, being positive. Just set some little goals for yourself. I'm gonna give five high fives out throughout the weekend. Or if I don't start one game, I'm gonna embrace it, and I'm gonna come off the bench and make a big difference for my teammates. And coaches notice all those things. So again, be you, and in the areas you need to kind of improve yourself a little bit, just set some.
I guess my last advice is God is good, and everything works out, and you're going to be where you need to be, and just trust the process, and don't make a decision that you feel rushed about. Just feel comfortable with it. Go through the process. Don't feel like you have to make a decision because your friends are making a decision, or if someone gives you a deadline, just be honest with them. And don't freak out about it. There's needs on each coach's side and your side. And if they give you a deadline, just ask them, if you can have more time, and give them a reason for that. So the process, sometimes people are scared about it. But at the end of the day, I really respect when players and families are really honest with me. That shows a lot of the values that we want in our program. And there's nothing wrong with just that communication. So don't be afraid to ask a coach those questions.
So advice that we'd have on a showcase event or on a tournament is one, to compete. That is one of the most important things in college soccer, because soccer is one of those games that rarely things go right. And just competing or out-competing your opponent, winning your individual battle, which a lot of times there is an individual battle in the game, could be the thing that sets you apart. I would say that preparing as far as nutrition and hydration, all those things your coaches talk about that sometimes, we might not pay attention to, those things are very important, especially to get you through a 3-game weekend. And then the last part is having fun. The game is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy the process of competing, the process of trying to win. And then if you don't win, what does that look like? That's something that we pay attention to.
At most, if not all, showcase events, you are not playing for a championship trophy, just for the coaches. With that said, we know it is hard to get motivated for that, but we want to see players who go out and compete each game and are excited to be playing the game we all love. Our training environment is very intense and competitive, so if we see a player at an event competing at a high level, we know that they will fit in and bring that every day to practice.
Awesome. Takeaways. Okay. So I probably heard compete at least 6 or 7 times listening to other coaches talk about it. So advice, go out there and compete for everything. It was an issue. Brian made a comment about preparing your body to yourself physically, right? So get your sleep, get the nutrition that you need. It was edited out, but Jim also made the same comments. He's like, you have to make sure that as far as advice goes, take care of yourself leading up to that event so you can have the performance you're hoping for. I think Joe made a comment at one point about, it's make that event that weekend like the most important thing that weekend. Like that's what's important at that weekend. So put all your focus into it. Eat well, sleep well, get up early, get ready to go to that event. So the other bits that I kind of jotted down that I liked was do what you do well is something that I actually still have it on a post-it on my computer at work. Be you, right? Be the best version of yourself that you can be. On showcase day, you got to know who you are as a player, the things that you do well and you're consistent with, and go do those. Okay. And while you do that, make sure you compete for everything, the entire game. Those are ways that you can set yourself apart. Brian's advice at the end too, just have some fun. Make sure it's soccer. We love the game. That's why you put your heart and soul into it. Have some fun while you compete. Okay. And then I like Andy's comment about, you're going to be where you need to be. Right. So really just kind of trust in the process. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Get out there, compete, have fun, and then kind of see what happens after each event. Okay. So one quick last bit, these are the coaches that helped us today. If you want to shoot them an email, happy holidays. I got some information. They know I sent this to you. They know I showed you guys today at 4:00. So, if you're in touch with them, shoot them a quick thank you for their time, for helping you guys kind of prepare for your next event. And then here is one other piece. So this is really all I used to have for showcase advice. I think I'll add a lot more after listening to other coaches. But just main takeaways at the end before we go to Q&A, if anyone has a question, would be you got to invite coaches to come to your games. Okay, they're going to be there, but if you want to be on their list of players that they're going to evaluate and get in touch with, you got to contact them. Okay, remind them a few days prior with the foolproof email with all the details. I don't want to search through my emails to figure out what jersey number you had. Don't feel bad that you're writing in the third email you sent me. The last one before the event is a foolproof email with every detail possible, right? After the event, contact them back, thank them for their time. It's courteous, but it also puts you at the top of the list, right? Andy mentioned people of good values, right? People with good values, a good thank you after the event is helpful. That is important to a lot of coaches. This is probably my piece right here that I would say my biggest bit of advice. Your performance will be consolidated into like 2 sentences about you, right? And that's going to be the takeaway, who you are. This is actually something that I wrote down about a player after an event. And sometimes it takes the first 15 minutes. Like, this is what I saw. I like this player, and here's the note. So I always tell players, go backwards. What do you want a coach to write about you? I'm going to stop sharing here so you can see me. What do you want a coach to write about you? And boil that down. Just make sure that when you compete, those things are coming out, right? Because it might just come down to she's got some speed, 1v1, has some skill, good technical skill, good soccer IQ. I'm probably going to approximate, are you competitive or not? Is this, at the end, maybe I give you a quick little player rating. But the reason it's important to kind of tell yourself or ask yourself, what do you want someone to say about you, is, it's a reminder before you take the field, like what what you want to be putting out there. Okay. So maybe give that some thought before your next event to help you prepare. And then that's all I've got. So if anybody else has any comments or questions, let me go back to the slide. So at least wrap it up the right way here. Share. Q&A. Awesome. Comments, questions? I have something here in the chat. So if you see that a coach is going to the event, yes, you should still email them. So I'll be honest, some coaches say they're going to the event and then they kind of wait and see, am I going to get any kids who reach out to me? Coaches are notorious for signing up saying they're going and then they don't go, right? Something comes up or not enough interest from the players who are going to be there. So then it drops on the priority list for the weekend. I can tell you that that happens a lot. Okay. So should you? Yes. At least a week out so that you can be a part of their first calendar, right? We're going to make a calendar. I'm going to be at this field at this time to watch this player who emailed me. And that's usually how the schedule starts. And then you look at all the gaps and then you're like, well, I got 4 hours to kill between events where kids invited me. What am I going to do with that? And then I look at the schedule. Do I know kids on these teams? These teams are very strong in the state. I'm going to go watch them play. So that's kind of the second way we fill our schedules. So do we know the coaches that will be at the MLK weekend? Not yet. I know Nate had some things he wanted to talk about for the MLK weekend event. So maybe this is a good time, Nate, if you want to chime in with some updates.
Yeah, no. So the plan as of now is to, play those games Saturday, Sunday, possibly Monday, have the ID clinic Monday morning, right? Because most of you will not have school that day. And we do not know exactly the schedule. We are working on the coaches. So I would assume that Joe, Jesse, Joaquin, and myself will get you a list in around the first week of January. Okay. We're also going to stream it. And so that'll be a really good opportunity also. So you add that to your list. And then we'll get you the information because we want all the college coaches to register through our website because then we can give them more information and then we can do different things that way. So no, we will probably know, like I said, in 10 days or so of a good list. And then we'll continue to add those people as we go. So as Jesse was saying, talk to your actual club coach, or you can send it off to Jesse or Joe or myself too and go, hey, what do you think of this email? Is this something that's appropriate? Just to help you out with it. Okay. But yes, plan on it. And then we will send you out the ID clinic again. That's Monday morning. And basically what that is that it is just for you. We'll do some small sided games. We might do some different activities with it. It'll also be streamed. And then we'll play 8v8 99 and two fields going back and forth. So that's another great opportunity to doing it, to seeing it. And like I said, it'll be streamed. So all those coaches will have that information. That might be even another avenue, as Jesse said, to continue to talk to coaches too.
Even though if the list isn't out yet, you can still contact coaches. If they're still pretty local, and let's say you're going to be at the event play MLK weekend, you can be proactive and start now, right? Invite any coach within the area. That way, once they get kind of our invitation from the club to please come to our MLK event, they already have a list. They already have players who have contacted them. So, and if you don't have a schedule, that's okay. Just send them an email now. So it's a placeholder, right? So now on my calendar, I have it on there. You know what, Saturday, here's a 2022 graduate that would like for me to watch her play, pending more information, right? So at least there's your first contact. Do the questionnaires on their website. So then you're in their database, and then follow up once we post the list or once you get your schedule. That's your second email. Here's my schedule. Look forward to watching you. Look forward to seeing you there. And then your third email might be, Wednesday, Thursday before the event, maybe a day or two. If anything has changed, let them know. If not, just here's one final email. Looking forward to seeing you on the sideline. Does that work? If there's any other questions, now would be a good time. All right, I think we're good. Let them know, last bit, let coaches know everything is going to be streamed and webcasted, because I think they may not know that. That might be very helpful. You can expand the list of schools that you invite, because if they can't drive in, they can at least watch the webcast. All right, that's all I got.